So the other initiative is what we call it convergent group, right? So it is actually a common commitments on land governance. So earlier this year, ILC together with other promoter of MSP such as IFAD, FAO, WHH, did exercise on global mapping. So one of the common thread resulted from this exercise was that there is overlapping activities on land governance at country level. However, the coordination, information action, rarely take place. So given this reality, so this exercise is that we want through this convergent group, we want all the CSO and egos to build common commitments on land governance at the country level, but how this common commitment is translated into action will vary depend country on country. Will be vary. I think depend on from one country to another. Depend on strategic objective and then another political setting. So another point I want to highlight on the convergent group as well. The land convergent group is focusing mainly at country level, while the land collaborative is national, regional and international level. So the focus of activities of the convergent group is coordination and joint programming at the country level, while for the land collaborative is for capacity building in order to transform effective design of MSP functioning. So briefly, also another point I want to highlight what ILC has been doing so far to support and foster this partnership. First one, as I mentioned previously, back last year, we did earlier this year, we did exercise with other actors, and then what we come up is that at that time to pilot in couple of country projects. So the promoter of MSP agreed that so this piloted project should be in a country where the MSP take place more than once. So in the context of Asia, we chose Mongolia. Why? Is because other than or beside ILC supported MSP, there is also GGT that is supported by FAO. So the process is being built, coordinated in order to validate form pilot countries. Hopefully later on, the information
I'm
sharing.
sorry, Harafik, can I request to conclude? Sorry,
Sure,
your
Anu.
concluding remarks. Yeah.
Yeah. So just one last slide. So I just want to focus more on moving forward. So I know in some countries, member either it is one individual CBOs or some CBOs have been working with other egos. So the question is, I think how this collaboration should be strengthened in the future. If so, what is the best entry point to replicate this collaboration to other countries? Or if that collaboration doesn't exist, what is the best way to initiate that collaboration, and what is the modalities? I think this is some question that will be discussed in the following session. Anu, thank you, and apology for the technical glitch. Over back to you, Anu.
Thank you so much, Harafik, and thanks so much for highlighting that how ILC uh, is acting as a bridge between within NES countries and between NES and IGOs, and sharing the broader framework in which we are strategizing, but at the same time highlighting that there are space for the diversity from the respective countries as well. So thank you so much. Now we move on to the case presentations. The first case is from Mongolia, and which will be presented on how their collaboration with IFAD on strengthening nomadic herders. Traditional institutions are working with respect to protecting their user rights. Um, the presenter, the speaker is Ank. Uh, she is Silay. She is holding PhD from Swiss Federal Institute of Technology from Zurich, with and she's currently a consultant of Mongolian National Federation of Pasture User Groups. She has been working with the development sector from last 20 years. Over to you, Ank. You have 5 minutes for the presentation. You are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Hello, everyone. Greetings from Mongolia. So I will be just making some short presentation about in terms of our. Can I? Is there my presentation? No. Okay, I will start talking. It's my presentation is a bit different. Okay, all right. Okay, my presentation is not that one, that one. Okay, just to give you some, I'd like to start with very short introduction about our country. So Mongolia is a country located between Russia and China, as you know, and then the rangeland-based nomadic herding is one of the biggest form of land use in Mongolia. So almost 82% of our total territory is used as rangelands. So in the past 20 years, Mongolia has made a transition from a centrally planned economy to market economy, and so one of the biggest challenges we are facing is the rangeland degradation. And the National Federation of Pasture User Group has been formed in in February 2015, and our main goal is to ensure the sustainable use of rangelands and at the same time to empower nomadic herders so that they have an access to the rangelands. So can you click again? So I will be talking about Mongolia, and then also in brief, I've already mentioned that Mongolia is also a democratic country, and we have a parliament on the highest decision-making body in the government in the state. And can you go again, please? Go there. And as I've told, that rangeland-based nomadic herding is one of the main economic and economic sector and land use form in Mongolia. And we have so far about 17 million animals and 170,000 herder households. And it's also one of the biggest source of income for the rural inhabitants. Can you go further, please? And then one of the challenges that I have mentioned briefly is about that traditionally that herders had this, we have a vast territory where herders use rangelands in a nomadic way. And unfortunately, during the past 70 years, Mongolia has been a centrally planned economy. This traditional grazing system and boundaries have been lost. So one of the things they are doing is to promote this traditional management of the rangelands. And still we are very much in lack of government policy in terms of sustainable use of rangelands. And because of that, there is too many animals, and this is one of the reasons of rangeland degradation. And because the rangelands are getting degraded, that also makes herders very vulnerable to the climatic risks. And also because of increasing mining, since in the past 10 years, there has been cases of land grabbing from herders because the herders have no really legal document to claim that this is their traditional rangeland. So the one thing that I will focus on the case study is how we are trying to empower herders so that they have the acknowledgement of the government to the traditional grazing lands. So, next, please. So I think that the biggest lessons learned that out of our project is that we have worked in the past 10 years to strengthen these traditional institutions of nomadic herders, how they have how they have evolved using the common rangelands in this context. And so just to give you a bit of idea that, for example, this is one kind of AMAC or like province center. These are the boundaries, that the grazing boundaries. So the nomadic herders usually they move in groups, and there are traditional groups that family clans that use the same winter and spring rangelands, and there are also communities that share winter and summer and autumn rangelands. So basically we have been kind of revitalizing these traditional institutions so that to claim to the local authority that the traditional user rights. Next, please. So in the course of like past 15 years, we have developed it as an approach. So there are certain steps. How do you really organize herders, and then how do you really empower them to have the government acknowledge the legitimate rights to the traditional rangelands? So first one is that from our context is that to foster teamwork among herders, it usually takes 1 to 3 years. First, we actually involve the membership is very important. Who are the herders, herder families are using that same rangelands? And the one thing that we have actually introduced is that the herders start introducing some more planned use of the rangelands. So once they have a planning how to use rangelands, they develop kind of internal rules. And of course, the leadership is very important. We usually work with the local indigenous leaders so that they actually being a changing agent in the community. In one interesting case we have also observed is that use economic incentive, like investment fund, that is 50% funded by the government, 55% by the community, so that they have this common fund to reinvest back into rangeland issues.
And I'm sorry, can I request you to conclude, please?
All right, just can you go seconds? I will just, okay. Okay, can you just keep on going? All right, I will just mention second. And then second and third is that we have basically had the government acknowledge this community-based planning and community-based regulations being a part of the official kind of legal government planning document. And with that, we have also had the government to register all the rangeland use agreements of herders, so that whenever there is a case that to transform the rangelands, for example, into cropland or mining land, they have to always consult with the community first to have their consensus before the transfer. This is the biggest achievement, I would say, of our 15 years work. And can you go please next? I will just quickly mention about these things. So now one of the big, as I mentioned, that with the support of the federation, now government is accepting to register the rangeland use agreement with nomadic herders. Before there was only the cropland or mining land, all the lands which has a license were registered in the land database. Now rangeland use agreement of nomadic herders are registered. It's kind of the legal document that that assure that the traditional user rights. So all the work we have mobilized in the community has resulted the government acknowledging the user rights. Next, please. Next, please. Okay, so now our federation has become one of the biggest collective organization of herders. So our federation has a membership of 80,000 herder households, which is almost basically half of the herding population in Mongolia. It's become one of the biggest kind of lobby group that is initiated by the herders themselves. Next, please. Okay, maybe I will go to the, so our vision for the community institution is that to have the herders, to have the community in the center, so there would be support services, there would be government, so that to really, our main achievement is to bring the herders in the center of the government policy, whereas before, the government would only have decision top to down, but now in our support that now the herders are center of the government decision making, they become like more or less equal partner to government and agencies, that they also have their own contribution towards sustainable use of the rangelands. So that is kind of vision that we see into the future. Next, please. So I will just give very clear the lessons learned was that really that all these changes, the community have to own the process and they have to empower. It's not that the government or somebody else, we have always had the herders themselves owned and the institutions be empowered. And of course, we have a lot of evidence to lobby the government to change the policy towards range management. And it was never been like fixed approach. It has always been process-oriented approach. And then there was a strong public and private partnership, not only the herding community, we have also involved the private sector, like the banking sector to issue the green loans and also use some traceability mechanisms and so on. And of course, we had enough time to really make this change happen. And then one of the important things that we've learned, economic incentive is also important to address some of the land management or poverty environmental issues. Not only environmental protection is important, but we also incentivize herders to take good care of the rangelands. So that was kind of briefly the lessons learned out of our 10 years of work.
Thank you so much. And can I we all realize that to consolidate 10 and 15 years of work in 5 minutes is just not possible. And thank you so much for highlighting the core of ILC's initiative also, which is to bring the community at the center of whatever we do. And your emphasis on working with the government and bringing in technology is very important, and thank you so much again. We move on to another presentation, which is from Gun Yanga. She is from IFAD, Mongolia, and she'll present how IFAD has worked on upscaling the initiative of the Mongolian CSO, and the emphasis will be on market development, pasture management company, and climate change adaptation component. She holds a degree on Masters of Arts from University of Humanities in Mongolia. Currently is the project component leader of Market and Pasture Management Development, IFAD Mongolia. Over to you, Jan. You have 5 minutes to go.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Kungwaya. I am currently in charge of the pasture management issue of the project. The project name is a Market and Pasture Management Development. This is the additional finance of the project, and the project has two components. One is a market development, and second one is a pasture management and climate change adaptation. And let me briefly introduce what we are doing under the project, mainly under this pasture management issues. Yeah. Sorry. The goal of the project is to empower poor rural women and men to achieve higher incomes and sustainable improvements in their livelihoods. And its objective is to reduce poverty and improve livelihoods of poor herder, Som and Amek Center, which is the province and sub-province in Mongolia, in the project area. Yeah. The objective of this development objective is in line with the Mongolian the government programs like Mongol livestock and also cooperative development programs. And the original project was implemented between 2011 and 2017. This is the additional finance of the project, which has started 2018 June, and completion date will be 2022. And then, under the pasture management subcomponent, the project supports mainly to establish the pasture herder groups, which the same thing, the income was mentioned earlier. Yeah, they're based on herders, participatory approach, and ensure range land user rights, and define the pasture boundaries, and also trying to establish the range land user agreement. And also a 3-year pasture management plan of the groups in participatory approach. And also we established some training and information rooms for herders, and also capacity building and training in pasture management, financial literacy, animal husbandry, and to herders, and also government fish officers. And also some, we also project support to implement the three-year plans of the groups. Yeah. Yes, next. And also under the subcomponent of climate change adaptation, we have some investments for the home level, not really directed to the herder groups, which means, to pasture, proper pasture use. Yeah? It's mainly improve the water resource, like new engineering wells, and also the rehabilitation of the hand wells, protection of spring sources, something like that. And also building and rehabilitation of fodder and hay storage facilities for emergency reserve, and also sheep dips at some level, I mean the sub-provinces, and also established, I mentioned earlier, information centers for herders, and also creation of the risk fund. It is kind of cash support to create the hay and fodder reserve, and also some tools for rodent control. This is the main investments done by the project. Next. Yes. This is the number of the pasture herder groups formed under the projects. Yeah. In total, 4,167 herder households joined, in total 140 groups in 18 sub-provinces of 16 provinces of the project, and improved capacity on proper pasture management and rodent control activities carried out on 120.5 thousand hectares, and water supply of the is 321.9 thousand hectares of pasture has been improved, and 616,000 heads of livestock were involved in sheep dipping built by the project. This is the number of the pasture herder groups formed under the project. This is the names of the provinces and sub-provinces. See, that's, for instance, Anhanga province in total 24 pasture herder groups, Dundgo of 28 pasture user groups. It's like that. This is the number of the groups formed under the projects. Next. Oh, yes, the 3-year pasture management plan consists of following parts mainly. The first thing is a project information, what the project have done, and what is the investments done by the project, and also brief description of the SOMS, the sub-province, and also description of the pasture herder group, pasture user group, and also carrying capacity of each group, like a winter and spring, summer and autumn pasture, and also 3-year pasture management plan and design, which means the mapping, and also the agreement on rangeland use between herder group and also local government. Next.
Hello, you have a minute to conclude, please.
Okay, almost finishing. Yes, this is the kind of what the structure of the plan is here. Organizational structure and need of training information, proper use and protection, improved of pasture land, and preparation of additional hay and fodder for winter preparation, and also need of pasture supply, like a water well, protecting spring source, and etc. Yeah? Improving livestock quality and health, and how we can improve the herders' income. Yeah. Next. Yeah, this is the main outcomes under the component. We have established 140 pasture user groups, and 3-year pasture management plans of the groups have been developed. and National Federation of the Pasture User Groups, and key to development NGO implementing capacity building activities to the header groups. And also some territorial development plan was developed in 11 zones by the specialized agency and made some amendments for 7 zones that the plan was previously developed. And this is the main outcomes. Yeah, this is, yeah, next, the last. This is just the number of the number of the works we have done. Yeah, how many engineering wells we did in sheep deeps. This is the, just you can see the number in the table. That's it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Onyanga. Sorry for misspelling your name. And thank you so much to IFAD, because the initial support was from SDC, and you taken on from there and upscale the entire work. And we see that the major emphasis is on the pasture user community, which is very crucial to any work on rangeland restoration and climate change. So, and you have also shared the integrated approach, and also the long-term commitment that you have expressed is very important for such kind of work. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I would like to invite the next case presentation from Sanat Beg, who will be presenting the case from Kyrgyzstan on sustainable management of forest resources, especially from the context of climate change. And they are working with FAO to make this possible. Sanat Beg is a COVID-19 survivor, and he is working as the facilitator for Kyrgyzstan, the National Engagement Strategy Facilitator for Kyrgyzstan, and he is associated with KAFLU. Since 2016, he is working as project specialist in Kyrgyz Association of Land and Forest and Land User Implementation Projects, and has a vast experience on sustainable land and forest governance. And he has certification of forest products, and assists in promoting agroforest products of the local communities. Over to you, Sanat Beg. You have 5 minutes again.
Okay, thank you very much, Anu. Good morning, good afternoon. So my name is Sanat Beg, and today I will present on behalf of KAFLU. KAFLU is a host member of NES Kyrgyzstan. Can we go to the next one? Today I will present about a collaboration with international organization with FAO. Our association, Kyrgyz Association of Forest and Land Users, is established in 2010 as a non-for-profit organization. We are uniting more than 141 organizations and 8,000 farmer, forest users, and land users from all regions of the country. And we are promoting the principles of sustainable management of land and forest resources, which is adaptive to climate change. We're preventing conflicts and improving the living standards of villagers, rural communities, and making worthy contribution to poverty reduction and food security in Kyrgyzstan. Our association successfully works with state, local, and international partners on the basis of memorandum. It closely cooperates with the Ministry of Agriculture, State Agency for Environmental Protection and Forestry, with other state organizations, and with agrarian universities of Kyrgyzstan. Also, we are the members of different international networks, and we are collaborating with different other also NGOs from Turkey, from Russia, from the bordering countries as well. Can we go to the next one? So since we established in 2010, so we are cooperating with FAO in Kyrgyzstan since 2011, and also as a part of FAO project development of pistachios and walnut production in Kyrgyzstan. KAFLU carried out works on mobilization of population for creation and of plantation and care for them, and also different seminars and trainings with participation of workers of forest sector, ministries, and departments and scientific institutions. As a result of which, a state program for development of nut fruit cultures till 2025 was developed and approved by the government of the Kyrgyz Republic in 2014. It's a one case where we collaborated with FAO. Next, please. And KAFLU is in framework of the project FAO and GF project, sustainable management of mountainous forest and land resources under climate change conditions in 2015 and 16, assessed the national agrarian and forestry policy of Kyrgyzstan, which is currently used in the development of intra-branch policies of department, and on the basis of which concept of forestry the development for the period till 2040 was developed with the support of FAO and approved by the government of the Kyrgyz Republic in 2019. Next one, please. And also in framework of the same project with FAO, we conducted trainings on implementation of agrarian forestry policy and related legislations in accordance with the principles of sustainable land management and forest management in Kyrgyzstan for the representative of pilot forestries, joint stock companies and local communities from the 5 regions of Kyrgyzstan. And as a result, more than 350 employees of relevant structures and farmers of local communities have been trained, and 30% of which are women.
Sanapik, you have a minute to conclude. Oh.
Very short presentation from my side. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's fantastic. You are just on time. I mean, before time. Thank you very much, and thanks for elaborating the strategy of Kyrgyzstan to have a consortium of various INGOs and IGOs, and to see how to collaborate in different, and to see what could be the interest areas of different IGOs and working on them. So thank you so much, Sanapik. I would like to move on with the next case presentation from Nepal. This is a very interesting example of forming a land governance working committee and through them working on land reform through context mapping of land and natural resources. The presentation will be done by working experience in the development sector. Currently, he is the facilitator of Nepal, and along with that, he is also facilitating the multi-stakeholder platform on people-centered land governance, which is also called Land Governance Working Group in Nepal. over to you, Dharam. And if you want to highlight this, the major aspects of this collaboration in 5 minutes. Over to you, Dharam.
Okay, thank you very much, Anu. Good morning, good afternoon, and a good evening all, based on all of your time zones. Now I am trying to share the collaboration on land reform through context mapping of land and natural resources that we are doing in Nepal in collaboration with UN Habitat and other organizations. Next, please. So context mapping of land and natural resources is not only about collecting the data or mapping the parcels of land resource. This is also the participatory learning process and the way of empowering community peoples. Next. The partners, together with UN Habitat, there are some other organizations, ministries, and local governments and NGOs, along with the research-based organizations that have been working on land-related governance. So these organizations using the tools, that promoted by UN Habitat, social tenure domain model. This tool has been used to conduct the context mapping. Some of the organizations are modifying the tool as per their needs, and the collaborations among these is happening now in the field. Next, please. So the quick overview of the presentation. During this presentation, I will briefly talk about the context in which this collaboration emerged. Then I will talk about the challenges during the project. It's a recent one, and we have to go a long way in future. And some of the initial lesson learned, I will also tell. I will also share the lesson learned, then some of the key outcomes and the results, and lastly I will share the future opportunities and challenges that are to enhance the this collaboration to the next level. Next, please. The context in which the collaboration emerged is in Nepal, there are 20% of the land being used is not registered, and it is not under the government land administration system. And land, since there has not been a land mapping in recent decades, so there is a need to update, need to have updated land data. And because of insecure tenure securities, many communities face recurrent evictions, and there are challenges, and there are also changes in policies that govern land and natural resources. Given this context, Nepal has been shifting through various changes, and this has been igniting the migration, rural to urban migration, and the people tend to reside on unregistered land also. So it has been creating a kind of unmanaged governance of land. And a common this collaboration also came out of the common objectives of all the collaborating organizations that are that have been aspiring to establish and promote people-centered land governance in Nepal. And landless and people residing on unregistered land are being denied state facilities. State facilities are also disproportionately divided among those who have land ownership and those who does not have. So So this context also motivated for this collaboration. And one of the important context that that motivated this collaboration is the multi-stakeholder partnership model supported by International Land Coalition. And the picture on the there below the topic is the agreement among the various organizations. So some of the key outcomes. It is early to say the main results, or let's say overall results. We are in the process of this collaboration. It has just started, so there are few outcomes and results. One of the main outcome of this exercise is this collaboration is the database of landless informal settler and their lands. Under this, we have strong evidence for land rights campaign and policy advocacy. Then it has also resulted in the identification of target groups that are farmer, poor, and food insecure peoples. And the local governments also helped this exercise to prepare their yearly development plans and programs. Also, it has helped them to formulate their long-term development strategies also. And this strengthened the local government towards land management and its government, and develop it further contributed to develop skilled community leaders. One of the main beauty of this collaboration is to produce skilled community leaders so that they can use the evidences for their land right advocacy. Next, please. Lessons learned, few lessons I have incorporated here. This collaboration with the multi-stakeholders that include the land, the government, development partners, and communities is more effective. Then the involvement of the community people in the process builds trust, engenders a feeling of ownership over the initiative, and brings true information. Since land is very considered a very serious matter also, it is a political matter, and the people do not feel easy to share the information about this thing. When you closely incorporate community people in the project process, so it is very easy to find true information. Next, please. So the opportunities and challenges to enhance the collaboration are we saw there are many opportunities which are very challenging also. The one of the important opportunity that we have in front of us now is to support and contribute to the ambitious work of the governments that is being led by the Land Issue Resolving Commission, which was recently established, and it aims to award land ownership to 1.4 million people who are landless or informal settlers now. So in this ambitious work, we will be collectively supporting the Commission, local governments, and central governments. And the next one is the revised law and regulations also give the space for the context mapping through local government and provision to formulate their vision papers and land use plan. In our case, there are no long-term visions prepared by the local governments and central governments, because recently we had the governing laws, National Land Policy and Land Use Act. So the first priority for the local government is to prepare their vision paper about land use. In this exercise, the first step will be the context mapping. So this is the a great opportunity for us to work together with community and local governments. And another one is to
May I
promote and
request you to
strengthen
conclude, please, Dharam?
Okay, Anu, a few points. Promote and strengthen multi-stakeholder partnership for land reform initiative. This is through this is again through context mapping and sustainable land use planning. Uh, Another opportunity is to build capacities of platform members and the people's organization as well as public organization. It means government organizations. We have this opportunity also that will help advance the NES and LGD impact in its working area. And outcomes of NES LGWG also, it is obvious, also largely dependent on increased funding, which will also come through wider connectivity within and outside the ILC networks, governments and the other organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Anu, over to
Dharam.
you.
And thanks, Dharam. This is absolutely fantastic to see how the progress of Nepal with terms of the land governance working committee. And you have picked a very strong points on mapping and assessing the heart of the problem, which is insecure land tenures, which are leading to various issues like migration and etc. And identifying the common minimum interest area and hence common minimum program with the NGOs, IGOs, and the government. But keeping the community at the center was the key area. So thank you so much. We would now move on to the another country presentation, which is Philippines. From Philippines, we will hear about the challenges and recommendations of an engagement of NES and World Bank, which is in progress with relation to supporting parcelization of land for individual titling. The presentation will be done by Don Marcus. He is the Executive Director of Asian NGO, as we all know. Don oversees the development of programs and projects, and he has rich expertise advice that benefit and work member networks and partner with working in 9 Asian countries with an efficient reach to 3,000 NGOs and community-based organizations in the region. Over to you, Don. You have 5 minutes. John?
Thank you. Thank you, Anu. Can you see the screen?
Yes, go on.
Okay. Good afternoon and good evening to all. Upon the invitation of the Regional Coordination Unit, I have been requested to present on the challenges and recommendations on potential engagement between the National Engagement Strategy of the Philippines and World Bank Philippine Country Office, particularly in relation to a $370 million loan of the government of the Philippines from World Bank, which took effect last June of this year. This project is the parcelization of lands for individual titling or split. My presentation is based from the stakeholders consultation last February, organized by the Department of Agrarian Reform, which is the main agency responsible for the implementation of this split project. It has also supplemented my presentation by the Zoom meeting I had with some of the members of the NES Philippines early this week. In order to understand the context of the project, the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law was enacted in 1988, covering all agricultural lands with the objective of redistributing around 8.1 million hectares of agricultural land and 3.9 million hectares of forest lands to landless tenant farmers, farm workers, and farm workers. Under the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, public and private agricultural land holdings are required by the government to be distributed to agrarian reform beneficiaries in the form of an individual certificate of land ownership award or CLOA, covering one contiguous tract of several parcels of land cumulative to a maximum of 3 hectares. However, qualified beneficiaries may opt for collective ownership through a farmers cooperative or some form of collective organization for the issuance of collective CLOA. In the past decades, many land holdings were awarded to agrarian reform beneficiaries under a collective form of ownership. As of 2019, some 1.4 million hectares of land are under collective certificates of land ownership award. It should be noted that the act of parcelization is a very sensitive since it comes many years after the CLOAs have been issued. It's like agrarian reform all over again because many of the original beneficiaries may have died, while some farmers may have already subcontracted out part of their lands. There are instances when the parcels have been identified and allocated, and parcelization becomes just a formal process of subdividing a title. Yet, there are also cases where a whole parcel of land is collectively owned, and only the perimeter boundaries have been identified. Thus, such situation poses a potential source of internal conflict among the agrarian reform beneficiaries as to determining what will be the basis of delineating the land among themselves. Moreover, sometimes the parcelization process calls for a second round of beneficiary identification. Then the issue of patronage system or getting favor through affiliation or friendship with authorities thus arises. In short, the real issue in relation to parcelization will be social justice and social protection again, for the poorest, especially against entrenched local elites and interests. In February of this year, a stakeholder workshop was organized by the Department of Agrarian Reform, and a number of the NEST Philippine platform members raised the following concerns. First, a broader consultation processes with farmers and civil society organizations could have been organized, considering the magnitude of this loan proposal. As I mentioned, $370 million loan from World Bank and $103 million as counterpart of the government of the Philippines. These amounts will be paid by tax-paying Filipinas and Filipinos. Second, the basic premise is that titling and parcelization should be optional and should be the result of the request of the farmers' organizations. Individual titling should incentivize farmers to invest and not to sell their lands. This should be the ultimate indicator for the success of the split project. Third, this concern is based on past experiences that land titling does not guarantee security of tenure among the farmers. True safeguard measures include adequate support services, appropriate capacity building interventions, and conducive environment for land governance. Farmers' organizations and civil society organizations should therefore be given the opportunity to review the environmental and social safeguards standards instruments of the split project. At the same time, gender equity through joint titling should be promoted by the split project. Fifth, on the other hand, the country is facing many cases of overlapping claims by rights holders and tenurial instruments issued by government land agencies. It is no secret that the number of lands distributed to farmers under the Agrarian Reform Program are found in ancestral domain areas of indigenous peoples. How will then the split project address such issue? In the last few months, there has been accounts from farmers, IP communities that the Department of Grain Reform has been aggressive in encouraging indigenous communities to apply for Certificate of Land Ownership Awards, titles, instead of pursuing their certificates of ancestral domain titles, by offering that the processing of the CLOAs is faster than the CADTIS, plus with the guaranteed production assistance from the Department of Agriculture. Unfortunately, these actions have caused conflicts within the communities and organizations of the indigenous peoples. Of late, civil society organizations have reported that various government land agencies have no uniform field data. This has to be sorted out soon, as this situation could lead to exclusion of rightful beneficiaries in the titling process. Thus, in terms of having a constructive engagement between the NEST Philippine platform and World Bank, and subsequently with the Department of Agrarian Reform, the rules of the engagement should be clarified from the start. This means identifying what documents can be secured by civil society organizations and farmers, the level of decision-making authority within World Bank and the Department of Agrarian Reform, what parts of the split project design are still open for modification, among others. While we always aim for consensus, part of the engagement process is the agreement to disagree with each other. The second basic principle is the inclusivity and transparency of the engagement. Definitely, there are groups outside the NEST platforms that World Bank and the Department of Agrarian Reform should engage. The NEST platform, however, is open to facilitate such process. As an immediate next steps, NEST Philippines will request a copy of the project operations manual developed by the Department of Agrarian Reform for the split project in order for us to have a better understanding of how the project will be implemented. At the same time, NEST Philippines will pursue the planned dialogue with World Bank, which was postponed due to the lockdown brought by the pandemic. In this meeting, we hope to clarify the issues raised and explore options for engagement with World Bank and subsequently with the Department of Agrarian Reform. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, John, and thanks for being on time as well. I mean, it is so good to see that such kind of projects which are related to the community, how the NEST platforms can work with the government, the IGOs, and also the community to be act as a bridge, and especially with relation to the sensitivity of the projects, and also to find ways to work in a better way so that it helps and be inclusive and transparent, as you said, that these are the principles of the project. Thank you so much for explaining this proposed project, and this is very contextual and very timely to hear from Maria Teresa to see what is the project design of the split project, which is shared by Don. Maria is the Senior Rural Development Specialist and co-task team leader for the split project from World Bank. She has helped in designing the split project for Philippines. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you very much, and good day to everyone. Thanks so much to the ILC for inviting us in this session, although it came very late. When we were in another mission, we have to give way to this session because we think this is important. Nevertheless, thank you so much, Dawn, for being very candid and honest on your initial assessment of the project, as well as the opportunities and challenges that the CSOs would be able to provide and support the project Okay, if we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, Don had actually mentioned a lot of key information already, but let me walk you through on the project. So the project is proposed by the Department of Agrarian Reform, together with 3 other agencies, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, because they will be doing the subdivision as well as the survey. The National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, because there are possibilities of overlap in terms of the agrarian reform areas or under the comprehensive agrarian reform as well as ancestral domain. And the Land Registration Authority of the Department of Justice, which is the agency responsible for titling. So these are the 4 agencies that will be working for the project. The project development objective of SPLIT is to improve land tenure security and stabilize property rights of agrarian reform beneficiaries. So basically, this project would focus on existing collective titles, or as we call in the Philippines, under the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, as certificates of land ownership awards. So these are already existing collective titles or CLOAs. So as Don mentioned, the project would be drawing funds from the World Bank as well as the government counterpart. And the total project cost is 420 million US dollars, with the World Bank providing $370 million. The coverage of the project is the entire Philippines, except the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, and it would cover an estimate of 1.37 million hectares of collective titles or CLOAs. There is an estimated 750,000 agrarian reform beneficiaries that are covered by these collective CLOAs or titles. The project was approved by the World Bank Board in June this year, and the project is yet to be implemented, and we're hoping that the loan would be made effective anytime soon this month. Okay. But of course, the Department of Agrarian Reform, together with partner agencies, are already working on a number of preparatory activities. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are 3 components of the project. The first, which is the core and heart of this project, is the parcelization of collective CLOAs. So as I have earlier mentioned, this would support the improvement of processes for the parcelization or subdivision of collective titles. And the parcelization is on a demand-driven basis. This is voluntary. There will be community or orientation and consultation with agrarian reform beneficiaries and agrarian reform beneficiary organizations to discuss about the project and find out from them whether they would be interested to have their collective titles parcelized or subdivided. And under this project, we would take advantage of improved technology. There will be introductions, including digitization, as well as rationalizing the workflows and streamlining of stakeholder engagement. These are all very important because, as Don mentioned, a lot of these collective CLOAs have been issued to the agrarian reform beneficiaries or to the groups of agrarian reform beneficiaries for 10 years or even 20 years or even older. Because the comprehensive agrarian reform program had been in effect for more than 20 years. So this is the heart and soul of the project, and there are a number of steps that would be that would have to be undertaken to be able to reach that stage of the issuance of individual titles. The second component is capacity building and technical assistance. This is basically to capacitate the Department of Agrarian Reform beneficiary staff as well as the other implementing agencies at the different levels from the central office to the field offices on the enhancement and adoption of updated guidelines and innovative processes that I earlier mentioned under component 1. And then just like any other project, we have project management, monitoring, and evaluation as the third component. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so as requested by ILC, I have to share with you what are the possibilities and potentials for the IGO-CSO collaboration. So there were 3 questions. What are the opportunities, modalities, and challenges? And let me present to you what are these as far as the split project is concerned. Again, I would like to highlight or reemphasize that this project is a government project, and the bank is providing funding support as well as technical support. So in terms of who is in the driver's seat, it is the government through the Department of Agrarian Reform and their partner implementing agencies. But nevertheless, there are mechanisms and opportunities in the project wherein different stakeholders are encouraged and invited to be part of the process. During preparation, there were 3 stakeholders consultation workshop, which was mentioned by Dawn, that had been undertaken. We specifically discuss the design of the project, get the views of the different stakeholders from the government, from the private sector, from the CSOs, NGOs, as well as academe and other stakeholders. And one of the focuses of the stakeholders consultation workshop was the safeguards guidelines, because indeed land is a very important asset and a sensitive sensitive asset for that matter. Okay. So the inputs that had been gathered in the stakeholders consultation workshops had been incorporated in the design of the project. And specifically, the safeguards, policies, and guidelines that would be adopted by this project is disclosed in the website of the Department of Agrarian Reform, as you would see in the screen, as well as in the World Bank website, so that anyone who would like to know more about what the safeguards would have to be adopted under the project are there. And
Maria, can you conclude, please? Sorry.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay. And then, anyway, what I'm just saying is people have access to this. And then, of course, another opportunity is for awareness raising, especially that the individual titling is tedious and it's a long process. Also, in the conduct of field validation, as well as participation in specific project activities that the DAR would eventually procure services, such as IEC strategy and client satisfaction survey. There is already a CSO advisory group or committee in the World Bank Office, Manila, and one of the members is the ANGOC chair, Father Francis Lucas, and that's also another opportunity or another venue to get feedback and advice. And of course, Don and myself had been, we are just phone call away, and definitely we will have to now schedule that meeting, which was supposed to happen last time. So let me end my presentation by saying that this is a 3-year implementation project. And especially for the first year, there will be 3 regions out of the 16 regions of the country that implementation would start. And it's very important that all stakeholders, including the CSOs, would provide feedback and also provide inputs based on the specific lessons learned to improve implementation, make it transparent, and achieve the targets. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria. And this is really good for all of us, all the speakers and participants, to hear from World Bank the kind of design which is drafted, and also it would be good to see how this project is implemented and how the concerns raised by Don from the land users group is being addressed. So yeah, it is very good to hear. And with this presentation from Maria, I would like to conclude this session, with this slot of the session by thanking all the speakers from the NES countries, and also the speakers from World Bank and IFAR to present the case, and also to give your perspective on how we are looking at the collaboration with NES platforms. I would like to give the anchoring to Ripa from Bangladesh. She is the NES coordinator from Bangladesh. Over to you, Ripa. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anu. We are already getting late. Okay. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to this session. Actually, in this session, we will discuss about the future collaboration and challenges and the modalities about the intergovernmental organization and other countries who are implementing NES in Asia. So we inviting here several organizations who are working on land governance, agriculture, food security at different countries in Asia. And here we will discuss the collaboration with technical and financial support at country level with CSO-led platforms. And I hope that their representations who are already in these sessions, so their representations demonstrates the positive ray of hope. So let's see here to what they are share with us about the collaboration modalities and how to strengthen the existing. Invite first Mr. Harold Liversays. He's the Global Team Technical Specialist in Land Tenure, IFA. Mr. Harold Liversays, please.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for the very interesting presentations that we've heard today. So I'll try and respond on the same questions that the other speakers have responded. But just give a bit more of a general from what we heard in the presentations, perhaps to try and draw out some general lessons and observations. I think, in terms of, as a starting point for how can we strengthen IGO-CSO collaboration, I think really the key starting point and key is understanding our respective roles, what we do, and getting better information on that, on what is it that we actually do. In terms of our roles, I think there's quite a lot of diversity between civil society organizations on the one hand, but also the intergovernmental organizations. So we have quite diverse roles. In terms of civil society organizations, my understanding, you have CSOs that are more constituency based, that represent communities or interest groups, so for example, farm organizations or trade unions, to non-government, to the NGOs that are more providing services to communities. So those broadly the two different types of CSOs that typically we see as part of the ILC membership. Perhaps some are playing more of an advocacy role. Some are maybe providing more technical support in actual implementation, and having different relationships to government. Sometimes more adversarial, sometimes very strong collaboration. And the same with the IGOs, there's quite a bit of diversity. In terms of the ILC members, the intergovernmental organizations, you've got the CGR centers, the research centers, the UN development agencies like FAO, and then the international financing institutions like the World Bank and let's say IFAD. IFAD in a way is a bit of a hybrid organization. Well, so is the World Bank in many ways. We're a financing institution, but we also provide technical support like FAO. We will be providing technical support and like the CGR centers. I think one thing that makes us quite common is that we are accountable to our member states, to the governments in our member states. But at the same time, we have an important role. We also work, of course, with civil society organizations. And it's very important understanding that. Perhaps in terms of challenges, so I think a key thing for us as IGOs is really fostering government and CSO collaboration. I'm going to just touch on challenges and opportunities. I think, as I said, one of the big challenges really is a lack of understanding and an information on what do we do, what do the IGOs do, what are the civil society organizations doing. So as ILC, as a network, we have a critical role in really in sharing, and that's why these sort of four are very important. I think another challenge really for us is our relationship to the government partners. We have different relationships, intergovernmental and CSOs, as I say, as intergovernmental organizations, we are the states, different relationships. I think in terms of opportunities, collectively together we can, the key opportunity is about creating space for dialogue, especially for rural communities and for more marginalized in those communities. We can both play that role with the constituency-based organizations having a much more representative role of those voices, and ourselves, the intergovernmental organizations and NGOs, perhaps having a more supportive role in ensuring that those voices are heard. I think another opportunity for us is really supporting the piloting of good practices, good innovations, and we've heard about some of those, and then scaling those up. So piloting of new progressive approaches to recognizing and securing rights. I think NGOs and constituency-based civil society organizations have a key role in supporting the piloting, and the intergovernmental organizations can play an important role in supporting the scaling up. For IFAD, we would be financing a sort of a mid-level scaling up in terms of government programs. I think in terms of the last question, what are the modalities of fostering an independent voice? The IGOs we can support by providing financial support to, let's say, constituency-based organizations, and NGOs also supporting those organizations and having their voices heard. In terms of piloting and supporting piloting and community consultations, here I think the NGOs have a critical role to play, and again, we as intergovernmental organizations can provide support in terms of, let's say, financing some of that piloting of good practices, sometimes independent of government, and then we have a key role in supporting perhaps the scaling up of that. And again, together, you know, as IGOs, we can support in terms of financing government programs. NGOs, in that relationship, the modality would be much more perhaps as a service provider to governments in the implementation of programs, but they can also play a key role in the independent monitoring of that implementation, and especially the constituency-based organizations. So I'm sorry I rushed through that very, very quickly. Just to say, I think I appreciated what the colleague Maria Teresa said from the World Bank. You know, as IFAD, we don't implement programs directly ourselves. These are government programs that we support. So even the example of PMPMD, it's not an IFAD project. It's a project of the ministry. I think it's the Ministry of Agriculture in Mongolia that we are financing and supporting. And that's part of the reason why it's very important for us in terms of building and fostering the collaboration between civil society organizations and our government partners. So just in conclusion, because I know I'm out of time and I'm sorry for that, I think in short, there are many opportunities for fostering good collaboration between IGOs and CSOs, but there are challenges, and it's important to recognize those. The key, though, is sharing information, and understanding on what our respective roles are. And in the end of the day, we need each other, and collectively we can play a very important role. And I think that is the added value of the ILC as a network. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harold. Yes, we are agree that it is very challenging to sharing information and preparing best practices, it is very good idea. The platforms in different countries are working and implementing NES here. We are actually working to secure the rights of the minority peoples, indigenous peoples, rural communities. So it is very good idea, I think, to prepare some best practices, and we can share these IGOs, and we can have piloting some dialogues with different IGOs. But it is actually true that there are several mechanisms working to build collaboration, but differences is also there at country level. Already Don said that, and even we also have some cases in previous slots. We heard that some of the countries is still lagging behind, so they have not developed partnership yet. So this is actually we want to know that if there is any re-strategize or rethinking about the modalities, how we come forward to strengthen the existing, and how we can build a new partnership with the IGOs. This is also challenging for us, because most of the IGOs are working with the government, and they are their first priority. Okay, next I move to Ms. Louise Johnson, Head of Land Tenure Unit focusing on Asia of FAO headquarters. I apologize for my wrong pronunciation. So I invite Louisa Jensen, Ms. Louisa Jensen, please.
Thank you. And thanks to all the speakers. Actually, Harold already said a lot of things, which makes my task much lighter, because I fully agree with what he said. I'm a land tenure officer at headquarters in Rome, but I'm also speaking on behalf of my colleague in the Bangkok office, who's currently on maternity leave. We are working closely in a lot of countries in Asia, so that's why you see me today. It's pertinent to really understand, like Harold said, FAO's role and responsibilities in working in the countries. All of the countries that have been mentioned are members of FAO. So we are an intergovernmental organization. We are accountable to our member. And that is a very different relation from the relations that we have with private sector, academia, or civil society. We work with all organizations because, as said by several of the speakers, we cannot do it alone. We need each other in order to achieve sustainable, enduring results on improved and strengthened land governance in countries. So we need each other. The working relations that actually have already been shown in the examples from the various countries provided, it's very clear that some of them are related to a project that is operational, in which you see the different stakeholders working together. And as FAO, you saw a good example from the forestry sector. We provide this type of collaboration, and of course it could be strengthened in each and every project. You can never work enough together. Then, of course, there are also ongoing country processes where FAO provides support. This can be processes related to policy and law, formulation, reformulation, revision, etc. And we have been providing such support long-term in a number of countries. And there you see that the role of civil society was very important, that they participate and provide their inputs both at the stage of formulation of a policy or a law, as in the whole process of having a policy approved or a law endorsed. And one of the partners that is also very important to engage in such a process are parliamentarians that also represent civil society. I had not heard mentioned parliamentarians before, but I think it's also important to be aware that they have very important role, especially when it comes to decision making and approving. So to strengthen collaboration, I think is really the case that we should do things together, and we should do this more. And the modalities in how this collaboration then will take form depends whether it's a process which FAO could support by providing funds or providing capacity development to groups or organizations of groups or different stakeholder groups. All of that is possible.
Thank you.
Within the project context, it's a different setting. So the key challenge and opportunity is basically to identify where do we have a common priority on what subject that is being dealt with in a country, or that should be dealt with in a country. There should be trust between all these stakeholders that want to work together, otherwise we will not be successful. And then, of course, it's very important, and this was also mentioned in one of the presentations, what is the win-win of our collaboration? Because we want to work together because we all will benefit from it, whether this benefit will be socially, economically, or ecological, or a combination of those. But that's important to know, and to know well in advance what it will bring to you. Because if it doesn't bring, why would you collaborate with someone? So this, in addition to all the things that Harold has already said, much more could be said about collaboration, but I think my 5 minutes are up. So I would like to pass to the next speaker. Thank you all for this opportunity to contribute to your webinar.
Thank you, Ms. Luisa. Thank you very much. Yeah. We appreciate your message you delivered here for us. It's very important. And yes, you said some your long-term support on adopting policy laws at country level program. Yeah, this is very appreciable, and we already the multi-stakeholder platforms already working in different countries like Bangladesh, India, Nepal, Philippines, and other total 8 countries. We are developing, we are implementing this NES, and we all of the MSPs has main focus to adopt new laws and policies in favor of the marginalized communities. You may know that democratic space for the CSOs are shrinking day by day. You already said that CSOs are very important. Their role is very important to raise the voice for protecting the rights of the marginalized communities. So this way, the government at national level adopting different laws, which actually narrow down the voice of the CSOs. So it actually constrains the working space between the CSOs with other IGOs and government also. So what is the role of IGOs in this, in this situation? And we also think that after this COVID, the role of IFAD, the role of FAO in terms of food security and in terms of land tenure security is very important, supporting the government and also supporting to the CSO. So now I would like to invite Ms. Maria Teresa to give her valuable comments and reactions in this regard. Maria Teresa. Miss Maria Teresa is a senior rural development specialist and co-task team leader for the SPLIT project, World Bank. Though she already presented her presentations, but also I invite again her to say something in this question. So I move on to her, Miss Maria Teresa.
Okay, that's a surprise because my presentation, I have prepared the presentation and I was told earlier. So Okay, let me think what I should be adding more if I was requested to do it. Anyway, so I just want to reiterate that land and the land sector is a very big sector, and it's a very sensitive sector because it's not only an asset. This is the life of most of our people, especially those in the agriculture and rural development. And because of that, the task is big, and different stakeholders have very specific roles. So it would take a village for us to do something, especially when it comes to land-related concerns. And whether you're from the international organization or from the CSOs or from the government or a member of the people's organization, you have your specific role, and you have a specific share for this. Okay. I just want also to emphasize that the openness for all the different stakeholders to engage and to collaborate in fair playing field is very important, because we bring to the table our expertise, our resource, our funds, but those are not enough. Others would definitely have very important role to play given their own experiences, especially experiences coming from the ground. And I think those are very important building blocks that we have to consider and we have to take advantage. And then lastly, the participatory process is something which is a twin of all things related to land, because again, you have to ensure that people, especially those who have stake to lands, would have to be consulted, and their voices would be heard, and they have to also provide regular feedback if things are not going well. Okay. I'm very sorry, I'm not prepared for a second call. Otherwise, I could have thought about this. But anyway, those are my personal thoughts based on from what I've heard. But again, thank you so much for inviting us. This has been a very productive and very useful inputs for us, as not only for the split project, but for other activities and undertakings that we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Sarsa, for your speech in the second time. Now I would like to invite the participants, if you have any specific questions, please write in the chat box, or you can speak the question ask directly after opening your camera and unmute your microphone. So we have another guest. We would like to ask him here, invite him here to speak something on this existing collaboration and modalities. Countries need support from the ITOs and other international financial supporting organization to run this engagement, multi-stakeholder activities in the country to secure the rights of the marginalized communities, which is very important. So without the solution, this movement will not continue, because you know the situation at country level. It is very important to have your support, your extended support. So now I move on to Mr. Raja Ram Chatupulli. Sorry for my wrong pronunciation. He is a coordinator of the land program of UN Habitat in Nepal, and also coordinates the Global Landfill Network Program Nepal. He has served the government of Nepal for several years in Ministry of Land and Survey Department. He was the previous Director General of the Survey Department of Nepal. Please, Mr. Rajaram. Thank you, Mr. Radha.
So you mentioned my previous job in government. So maybe what I speak may be more bureaucratic, but I've learned. I'm working with the UN Habitat in Nepal and working. So the agenda was to talk about the modality to strengthen the collaborations in future. With what Harold, Luisa, and Maria have already spoken, I think most of the points, most of the key points, keywords I wanted to mention are already highlighted. So I'd like to summarize in 3 bullets and explain a little bit with my experience in Nepal. So my first point is identify the priority. As Maria just mentioned, that land is a very large and sensitive issues, and it has a very legal and other aspects. Government is the most important stakeholder. So to my opinion, what is important first is to identify the national or the country priority. Second, to address to that, to address to that priority, select the appropriate tool, appropriate process, appropriate methods, how we can address to that issues. So so the third and important part is also, as has come out during the discussion today, is we have our own priorities of the institutions, but the major priority is the priority of our beneficiaries, our say constituency, the country and the people we try to serve. So to address to them, we have to, instead of focusing on different, say scattering our efforts in, is scattered, we have to come out together for a common, priority implement. So with this, maybe I'll try to implement a little bit about Nepal issue where I am working. So the Nepal, in Nepal, the land issues have been very sensitive issues, and it has been also one of the triggers of the 10 years armed conflict in the country. And after that, the constitution has been in place in Nepal. The new constitution, which came out in 2015, it talks about the right to food and also the food security and food sovereignty. It talks about the right to housing. It talks about the right to property, including right to immovable property, that is land. So also the right to landless. So these are focused as the fundamental rights, you see. So with this coming in, so our strategy was, okay, if this has been the constitutional, say promise, how do we come into to get it done? So the first thing we tried to come out together with the government and all the stakeholders together was to develop a national land policy. The national land policy has several tenures, so pillars like the security of tenure, access to land, optimization of the judicious land use, and the land market, formalize the land market, and overall to implement that the good governance is necessary, good land governance is necessary. So for that purpose, it is a huge work, as Dharmaji just mentioned, 25% of the whole land under use, and also about 10 million parcels. These are out of the, say, land cadastre. They are not registered. So to come out with that, so the necessary is to have a approach, a fit for purpose strategy with the government. This is a document we develop participation come out, and it talks about the 3 approaches: the legislative, the institutional, and the executive. So all of them together. Because we work together with the government and the CSOs and community and also the academia and all that, so that everybody has now a common strategy. Surprisingly, in Nepal, the Land Act has come very fast. The 8th Amendment to the Land Act it guarantees the regularization of the informal tenures and also the allocation of land to the landless. So as Dharma just mentioned, 1.3 or 1.4 million households will going to be benefit for that. For that, the government promises has institutions a land commission, which is mandated to solve this problem within 3 to 5 years. So you see the huge work in 3 to 5 years. So important is the capacity, the knowledge, the tools, the finance, all them are for a shortage. So that's for the reason what we are trying to support the government is to provide with the fit for purpose tools, called the social tenure domain model, where Dharmaji also mentioned a little bit. So all of them together, Land Commission is now trying to think whether they are considering very seriously to adopt the same tool, which is the open source land information tool. So overall, in the interest of time, I would not like to go very far beyond, but important, so here, the government is committed, there is a commitment of the government, there is some kind of piloting already done, but the important is how can this be scaled up? And for that reason, the capacity at different levels, the financial resources, the knowledge resources, all of them are very much important. And modality for strengthening is we have to come out together. So I was very, encouraged by hearing the Harold's idea that so there are financial institutions and finance in the IGOs available. The government has this priority. Let us see how we all can come together to support the government to these ideas. So this was a case I mentioned, but most of the issues were already discussed by my previous speakers. So I'd like to stop here. Thank you very much, and thank you.
Thank you, Rajaram. Thank you very much for your nice speech, for your nice delivery and the information you shared. Actually, we know the country context and the ground reality. Actually, the ground reality differs from country to country. So the political environment and other environment is also different. So my one question to all speakers that what will be the available mechanism for collaboration with IGOs? So please, who will address this question? Because this question for all of you, the reactors here present. So who will answer these questions? Hello.
I'm available
Hello.
to answer. I raised my hand. I'm not sure if you can see it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harold. Could you please give me some clarification or answer if you?
I'll try and kick off the discussion. And I just wanted to pick up on the previous point as well that Raja made. As I'm listening to people, I think one of the key, first I take your point, there's huge diversity in context, and that's very important for us to also understand that context in one country is very different from the other. I think the key thing that what we need to be doing together is supporting implementation. So in the end of the day, it's about recognizing and securing the rights of rural communities. I think that's the key thing. And when I say implementation, what we're talking about in terms of implementation is really supporting the implementation of government projects and programs. Again, depending on the context, the relationship between CSOs and government is quite different. And so, but that's really something I just wanted to highlight is very important for us. The type of modalities, the relationships, then the role that NGOs or other civil society organizations can play really depends on their relationship with government. I think that's a key thing. But to answer your question on what are the available modalities for strengthening collaboration between IGOs and CSOs, I think the key is already here in front of us in terms of the ILC network are the multi-stakeholder platforms at country level. And I think we need to look at that in particular, firstly, how can IGO members, intergovernmental organizations, but also the international NGOs, how can we have a more direct and active role in the formulation of national engagement strategies, of the ILC national engagement strategies at country level? You know, IFAD, we place a lot of emphasis also with our government partners in terms of when we design projects and programs, really, we should all be involved right from the start. So also for, as IFAD, in terms of us defining our country strategies with our government partners, which determine what are the priorities, we don't come and tell government, these are your priorities. Everything is done in a collaborative, consultative way, where we try and involve civil society organizations in that. And I think that would be also important for, as a modality or mechanism at country level, is how can we do that in the formulation of the national engagement strategies? And then through that, how can we collectively support multi-stakeholder platforms, which should be the key mechanism really for bringing all of us together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harold. Thank you very much for your, because time is actually, our next session is already started. So I'm giving, now I'll move to Mr. Sarulin, the coordinator of ILC Asia, for 30 seconds. Sarulin.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ripa, for moderating this very important session. Thank you, everyone, and especially to the speakers for national facilitator and also feedbacks and response from intergovernmental organizations. Thank you. And by this, we finalize these sessions, and just informations I see, I wrote it in the chat room. We will have the last sessions today on Beijing Plus 25 action plan. Please join us and see the information in your email. Thank you. Over to you, Ripa.
Thank you very much, Sarlene. Yes, we don't have much time to continue this session. We have another session. So now I will move on to, for the summarizing, my colleague, Mr. Sarin. He's here. Sarin will sum up the session.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much for the speaker who provide inspiring and meaningful presentation, and participants who actively engage in the discussion. And there are many interesting and relevant topics to be shared, and the question raised by our participant. I learned that the land right is essential, and land rights is a big issue and sensitive to our farmers who mainly contribute to the national economic growth. Also, land rights is equivalent to right to food, from my observation. And this platform really provides the concrete, practical, and possible solution to address challenges in concerning to land right and issue raised by our speaker and participant. I hope that the solution can be used and by our CSO in respective country, especially next countries. And I observe that we agree that the cooperation and transparent engagement is a common objective of our platform. And the engagement multi-stakeholders or partnership with the IG important. And also we agree that work together is the key approach, and it is it's not impossible to achieve land-centered government if the government or IGN or IGO is not a part of the process and also with the participative action from the community, from the indigenous people. So work together, initiate together today, we will change the world tomorrow. And also some suggestion that they promote regional platform and in this land sectors is very important, and so the voice of indigenous people or affect land grabbing or affect people's can be heard, their voice can be heard. I conclude that the platform is reached the set objective because it provides great opportunity to ILC member, NGO, CSO in Asia to share, learn the experiences on collaboration between ILC, RGO, and CSO and LED platform, and also give participants opportunity for practical cooperation and come out with the clear approach how to address the challenge, and such as the helping the pastoralists and the farmers, indigenous people, and so that they can have ownership on. And to this end, I would like to engage in the platform to share valuable experience and learn from each other in order to promote people-centered land governance and sustainable development and food security. Wish you all the best and successful future journey. Thank you very much. And I would like to close this session from now on. Thank you very much. Hello.
Thank you, Sarin, and goodbye to you and to all participants.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.